for the Matovu. Matovu, oh haleka Yaakov, Mishkenoteka Israel. Matovu, oh haleka Yaakov, Mishkenoteka Israel. How goodly are your tents, O Yaakov, your dwelling places, O Israel. As for me, through your abundant kindness, I will enter your house. I will prostrate myself toward your holy sanctuary in awe of you. O Yahweh, I love the house where you dwell, in the place where your glory resides. I shall prostrate myself and bow. I shall kneel before Yahweh, my Maker. As for me, may my prayer to you, Yahweh, be at a favorable time. O Elohim, in your abundant kindness, answer me with the truth of your salvation in Messiah Yahushua. Amen.
You may be seated.
Beit Lechem, where our goal is to fulfill our call to guard the commandments of Torah and to have the testimony that Messiah Yahushua is the Redeemer of Israel. Join us in the prayer for Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the new month. Yahavah, our Elohim, and Elohim of our fathers, make this coming month one of good and blessing. Grant us long life, a life of peace, of good, of blessing, of sustenance, of vigor, a life marked by a reverence for you and a dread of sin, a life free from shame and reproach, a life of prosperity and honor, a life in which the love of the Torah and the fear of Elohim animate us, a life in which our heartfelt desires are fulfilled for good. Amen. He who performed miracles for our fathers and liberated them from slavery to freedom, may he quickly liberate us and gather our exiles from the four corners of the earth, even all of Israel, and let us say, Amen. Holiness of the day. Moshe rejoiced in the gift of his portion that you placed on his head when he stood before you on Mount Sinai. He brought down 2 stone tablets in his hand, on which is inscribed the observance of the Sabbath. So it is written in your Torah, and the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to make the Sabbath an eternal covenant for their generations. Between me and the children of Israel it is a sign forever, that in 6 days Yahavah made heaven and earth, and on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed. You did not give it, Yahavah our El, to the nations of the lands, nor did you make it the inheritance, our King, of the worshippers of graven idols. And in its contentment the uncircumcised shall not abide. For to Israel, your people, you have given it in love, to the seed of Jacob, whom you have chosen. They shall rejoice in your kingship, those who observe the 7th. They will all be satisfied and delighted from your goodness. And the 7th, you found favor in it and sanctified it. Most coveted of days you called it, a remembrance of the act of creation. Our El and the El of our forefathers, may you be pleased now with our rest. Sanctify us with your commandments and grant us our share in your Torah. Satisfy us from your goodness and gladden our souls with your salvation, and purify our heart to serve you sincerely. O Yahavah, our El, with love and favor grant us your holy Sabbath as a heritage, and may all Israel, the sanctifiers of your name, rest on it. Blessed are you, Yahavah, who sanctifies the Sabbath. Amen. Tehillim 119, 1 through 19. Blessed are the perfect in the way, who walk in the Torah of Yahweh.
Blessed are those who observe his witnesses, who seek him with all the heart.
Yes, they shall do no unrighteousness, they shall walk in his ways.
You have commanded us to guard your orders diligently.
Oh, that my ways were established to guard your laws.
Then I would not be ashamed when I look into all your commands.
I thank you with uprightness of heart when I learn the right rulings of your righteousness.
I guard your laws, oh, do not leave me entirely.
How would a young man cleanse his path to guard it according to your word?
I have sought you with all my heart. Let me not stray from your commands.
I have treasured up your word in my heart, that I might not sin against you.
Blessed are you, O Yahweh. Teach me your laws.
With my lips I have recounted all the right rulings of your mouth.
I have rejoiced in the way of your witnesses, as over all riches.
I meditate on your orders and regard all your ways.
I delight myself in your laws. I do not forget your word.
Do good to your servant, let me live, and I guard your word.
Open my eyes that I might see wonders in your Torah.
I am a sojourner in the earth. Do not hide your commands from me.
Amen.
Amen. The Barku. Bless Yahweh, the Blessed One.
Blessed Yahweh, the Blessed One, for all eternity.
Barku et Yahweh HaMabarak, Baruch Yahweh HaMabarak Leolam Vayed. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
6 days shall you labor and do all your work.
But the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahweh your Elohim. In it you shall not do any work.
For in 6 days Yahweh made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. That is why Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
Speak also unto the children of Israel, saying, Above all, my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am Yahweh who sanctifies you. If you do turn back your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my set-apart day, and shall call the Sabbath a delight, the set-apart day of Yahweh esteemed, and shall esteem it, not doing your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words, then you shall delight yourself in Yahweh, and I shall cause you to ride on the heights of the earth, and feed you with the inheritance of Yaakov your father, for the mouth of Yahweh has spoken. Amen. The blessing over the children. The blessing over our sons. Yisimcha, Elohim, Ki Ephraim, V'kim Nashe. May Elohim make you as Ephraim and Manasseh. Over our daughters. Yisamek, Elohim, Ki Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Valeah. May Elohim make you as Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah. Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. Father, open their eyes that they may see wonders from your Torah. Listen, children, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching, for they are a fair wreath on your head and chains to adorn your neck. For I know the plans I have for you, declares Yahweh, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Children, may you flee the evil desires of youth and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on Yahweh out of a pure heart. Finally, children, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things to protect your mind and soul from Hasatan, that you may be blessed beyond measure. Sons, may you grow to be men of righteousness. Like trees whose roots run deep in life-giving water, may you be in the Torah of Yahweh. Daughters, may you come to be courageous women and capable wives whose values are worth far beyond rubies, guiding those in your care in spirit and Torah. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand for the Messiah prayer. Blessed are you, Yahavah, who has given us the way of salvation in Messiah Yehoshua.
He walked among us filled with your Spirit, the only one who ever fulfilled your Torah perfectly.
He healed the sick and raised the dead. The multitudes of our people sought his touch.
He taught as no other man taught, bringing forth the treasures of the Torah with authority.
How the children sought him, the lepers he touched and made clean.
How the despised and the outcast found love and release from their sins. How the hypocrites feared him, whose words uncovered their sin.
Despised and rejected, acquainted with grief, he bore the sins of Israel.
All of us like sheep went astray, turn every one to his own way.
Our iniquities were laid upon our king. The sins of this world became his burden to bear.
He rose from the dead and opened the way to life everlasting. Praise be to his name.
We are in him, his spirit empowers. New life is ours with joy and peace. Baruch atah Yahavah Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu et direct Yeshua b'Mashiach Yehoshua. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahavah our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us the way of salvation in Messiah Yehoshua. Amen. The blessing of the Shema. Baruch atah Yahavah Eloheinu melech haolam Yotzer or Uvarei Chosek Osei Shalom Uvarei Ra. Blessed are you, Yahavah our Elohim, King of the universe, who forms light and creates darkness, makes peace and creates evil. The Shema. Shema Yisrael, Yahovah Eloheinu, Yahovah Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malkuto Leolam Hayed. Hear, O Israel, Yahavah Eloheinu, Yahavah is one. Blessed is the name of his glorious kingdom for all eternity. Amen. Vahavta et Yahavah Elohecha b'kol lavavcha u'b'kol nafsheka u'b'kol me'edecha v'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi v'tavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam bam v'shiftecha v'vitecha u'vlektecha v'derek u'vshachtecha u'kamecha u'shartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu l'tot-fot beinenecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot v'techa u'bish aracha. You shall love Yahavah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might, and have these words which I command you this day be upon your heart, and you shall teach them diligently to your children, and speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you retire, and when you arise. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hands, and let them be frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. V'ahavta l'recha kamocha, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Amen. Please join us for praise and worship.
Open the eyes of the blind. There's no one like
Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for our weekly rest day to nourish us and refresh us. We thank you for the time that you have given us to spend together. We pray that it only glorifies you, and we ask this all in your name. Amen.
You may be seated.
Shabbat Shalom. Time for our Torah service. There's to be one Torah for the native born and for the stranger who sojourns among you. That's Bamidbar, or Numbers, chapter 15, verse 16. If you'll join me for the Ein Kamoka. Ein Kamoka Velohim Yehovah V'ein Kemaseka Malkuka Malkuk Olamim Umemshateka Bekol Dor V'dor Yehovah HaMelech Yehovah HaMalach Yehovah Imlo Le'olam Va'ed Yehovah Osleom Oitein Yehovah Yevared Eramo Vashalom. There is none like you among their gods, Yehovah, and there is nothing like your works. Your kingdom is a kingdom throughout all generations, and your dominion is forever. Yehovah reigns, Yehovah has reigned, Yehovah will reign forever and ever. Yehovah will give strength to his people, Yehovah will bless his people with peace. It's the Vayehi ben Soha'aron. Vayehi ben Soha'aron, Ve'yomer Moshe, Kuma Yehovah, Ve'afutu oiveka, Ve'anusu mesaneka, Mepaneka, Ki Mitzion Teze Torah, Ki Mitzion Teze Torah, Udevar Yehovah, Me'Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael, B'Yekushuato. When the ark would travel, Moshe would say, Arise, Yehovah, and let your enemies be scattered, and let those who hate you flee from you. For the Torah will go forth from Zion, and the word of Yehovah from Yerushalayim. Blessed is he who gave the Torah to his people Israel in his holiness. Hava Nagila Hava Nagila Hava Nagila Venishmeka Hava Nagila Hava Nagila Hava Nagila Venishmeka Hava Nerenina Hava Nerenina Hava Nerenina
Nagila Vein Ismeka. Hava, Nagila Hava, Nagila Hava, Nagila Vein Ismeka. Hava Nerenina, Hava Nerenina, Hava Nerenina Vein Ismeka. Hava Nerenina, Hava Nerenina, Hava Nerenina Vein Ismeka. Urakim, Urakim, Ursamea, Urakim, Ursamea, Urakim, Ursamea, Urakim, Ursamea,
May the Father of compassion have mercy on the nation that is born by him, and may he remember the covenant of the spiritually mighty. May he rescue our souls from the bad times and upbraid the evil inclination to leave those born by him. Graciously make us an eternal remnant and fulfill our request in good measure for salvation and mercy. May he help, shield, and save all who take refuge in him. Now let us respond. Amen. All of you ascribe greatness to our Elohim and give honor to the Torah. Arrive, Bill, Ben Yaakov, and Israelite, come to the Bema to read from the Torah. Blessed is he who gave the Torah to his people Israel in his holiness. Baruch et Yehovah Hamara. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bekar banu mikol hamanim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Yehovah. Notein HaTorah. Notein HaTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, who has chosen us from all peoples and given us his Torah. Blessed are you, Yehovah, giver of the Torah.
Reading this morning will be from Bamidbar, Numbers chapter 35, verse 14 through chapter 36, verse 11, and the Matot, chapter 36, verses 12 through 13. Give 3 cities beyond the Jordan, and give 3 cities in the land of Canaan as a city of refuge. These 6 cities are for refuge for the children of Israel, and for the sojourner, and for the settler in their midst, for anyone who mistakenly strikes someone to flee there. But if he has stricken him with an instrument of iron, so that he dies, he is a murderer. The murderer shall certainly be put to death. And if he has stricken with a stone in his hand, by which one should die, and he does die, he is a murderer. The murderer shall certainly be put to death. Or if he has stricken him with a wooden instrument that could kill, and he does die, he is a murderer. The murderer shall certainly be put to death. The avenger of blood himself put the murderer to death. When he meets him, he puts him to death. If he thrust him through in a hatred, or throws an object at him while lying in wait, so that he dies, or if in enmity he strikes him with his hand so that he dies, the one who struck him shall certainly be put to death, for he is a murderer. The revenger of blood puts the murderer to death when he meets him. But if he pursues him suddenly without enmity, or throws an object of him without lying in wait, or uses a stone by which a man could die, throwing it at him without seeing him, so that he dies, while he is not his enemy or seeking his harm, then the congregation shall judge between him who struck someone and the revenger of blood according to the right rulings, and the congregation shall rescue the manslayer from the hand of the revenger of blood, and the congregation shall return him to the city of refuge where he had fled, and he shall remain there until the death of the high priest who was anointed with the set-apart oil. But if the manslayer at any time goes outside the limits of the city of refuge where he fled, and the revenger of blood finds him outside the city of refuge, outside the limits of the city of refuge, and the revenger of blood executes the manslayer, he is not guilty, because he should have remained at his city of refuge until the death of the high priest. But after the death of the high priest, the manslayer is to return to the land of his possession. And these shall be for a law of right ruling to you throughout your generations in all of your dwellings. Whoever strikes a being, the murderer shall be executed by the mouth of the witness, but one witness does not bear witness against someone to die. And take no ransom for the life of a murderer who is guilty of death, but shall certainly be put to death. And take no ransom from him who has fled to the city of refuge, to return to dwell in the land before the death of the high priest. And do not profane the land where you are. For blood profanes the land, and the land is not pardoned for the blood that is shed on it, except by the blood of him who shed it. And do not defile the land which you inhabit, in the midst of which I dwell, for I am Yahovah, and dwelling in the midst of the children of Israel. And the heads of the fathers of the clans of the children of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, of the clans of the son of Joseph, came near and spoke before Moshe, and before the leaders and the heads of the fathers and the children of Israel, and said, Yahovah commanded my master to give the land as an inheritance by lot to the children of Israel, and my master was commanded by Yahovah to give the inheritance to our brother Zelophehad to his daughters. Now, if they are married to any of the sons of the other tribes of the children of Israel, then their inheritance shall be taken from the inheritance of their fathers, and shall be added to the inheritance of the tribe into which they married, and taken from the lot of our inheritance. And if Yobel, the children of Israel, takes place, and if Yobel of the children of Israel takes place, then their inheritance shall be added to the inheritance of the tribe unto which they married, and their inheritance taken away from the inheritance of the tribe of their fathers, of our fathers. And Moshe commanded the children of Israel according to the words of Yahovah, saying, what the tribe of the sons of Joseph speaks is right. This is the word which Yahovah has commanded for the daughters of Zelophehad, saying, let them marry who is good in their eyes, but let them marry only within the clan of their father's tribe. And the inheritance of the children of Israel is not to change hands from tribe to tribe. For every one of the children of Israel is to cling to the inheritance of the tribe of their fathers. And every daughter possessing an inheritance in any tribe of the children of Israel is to be the wife of one of the clans of her father's tribe, so that the children of Israel possesses each of the inheritance of his fathers. Thus the inheritance is not to change hands from one tribe to another, but every tribe of the children of Israel is to cling to its own inheritance. As Yahovah commanded Moshe, so did the daughters of Zelophehad. For Mahlah, Tritzah, and Hoglah, and Mikah, and Noah, the sons of Zelophehad, were married to the sons of their father's brothers. And they were married into the clans of the children of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, and their inheritance remained in the tribes of their father's clans. These are the commands and the right rulings of Yahweh commanded to the children of Israel by the hand of Moshe in the desert plains of Moab in the Jordan of Jericho. Hazak, Hazak, Hazak.
Be strong, and let us be strengthened.
Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah v'chaye olam nata b'tekenu Baruch atah Yehovah Noten HaTorah Amen. Blessed are you, Yehovah Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us the Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yehovah, giver of the Torah. He who blessed our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, may he bless Bill ben Yaakov as he is to come up to read from the Torah in honor of Yehovah and his word. As a reward for this, may the Holy One, blessed is he, protect him and rescue him in every trouble and distress, from every plague and illness, and may he send blessing and prosperity in his every endeavor, together with all Israel, his brethren. Now let us respond.
Amen.
If you'll join us for the Vezot. Vezot HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Lifnei B'nai Israel Apei Yehovah Bi'ad Moshe. And this is the Torah that Moshe placed before the children of Israel at the command of Yehovah through Moshe's hand. Return, O Yehovah, to the countless thousands of Israel. You now may be seated. I'd like to call Rita Bat Abraham to read from the Haftarah. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam asher bakar b'nviim tovim v'retzah v'devarim hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Yehovah haboker b'torah Uv Moshe Abdo, Uv Israel Amo, Uv Enviye Hamed Vazedek. Blessed are you, Yehovah Elohim, King of the universe, who has selected good prophets and was pleased with their words which were spoken truthfully. Blessed are you, Yehovah, who chooses the Torah, your servant Moshe, your people Israel, and the prophets of truth and righteousness.
The reading is Yirmiyahu or Jeremiah 2, 4 through 28. Hear the word of Yehovah, O house of Yaakov, and all the clans of the house of Israel. Thus said Yehovah, what unrighteousness have your fathers found in me, that they have gone far from me, and went after worthlessness and became worthless? And did not they say, where is Yehovah who brought us up out of the land of Mitzrayim, who led us through the wilderness, through a land of deserts and pits, through a land of drought and shadow of death, a land that no one passed through and where no one dwelt? Then I brought you into a garden land to eat its fruit and its goodness. But when you entered, you defiled my land and made my inheritance an abomination. The priest did not say, where is Yehovah? And those who handled the Torah did not know me. And the shepherds transgressed against me, and the prophets prophesied by Baal and walked after matters that did not profit. Therefore I shall contend with you, declares Yehovah, and with your children's children I contend. For pass beyond the isles of Kittim, and see, and send to Oder, and observe well, and see if there has been any like this. Has a nation changed its mighty ones which are not mighty ones? But my people have changed my esteem for that which does not profit. Be amazed, O heavens, at this, and be frightened. Be utterly dried up, declares Yehovah. For my people have done two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, to hew out for themselves cisterns, cracked cisterns, which do not hold water. Is Israel a servant? Was he born in the house? Why is he given to plunder? The young lions roared at him. They growled. They made his land waste. His cities have been burned without inhabitant. Even the sons of Noph and of Talphanes have shaven the crown of your head. Have you not done this to yourself by forsaking Yehovah your Elohim when he led you in the way? And now, why take the way to Mitzrayim to drink the waters of Shihor? For why take the way to Asher to drink the waters of the river? Your own evil instructs you, and your backslidings reprove you. Know therefore and see that it is evil and bitter that you have forsaken Yehovah your Elohim, and that my fear is not in you, declares the Master Yehovah of hosts. For of old I have broken your yoke and torn off your chastisements. And you said, I am not serving you, when you every high hill and under every green tree you lay down a whore. Yet I have planted you a choice vine, all of it a true seed. How then have you turned before me into the degenerate plant of a strange vine? Although you wash yourself a lie and use much soap, let your crookedness is ingrained before me. Yet your crookedness is ingrained before me, declares the Master Yehovah. How do you say I am not defiled? I have not gone after the Baals. See your way in the valley. Know what you have done, a swift dromedary breaking loose in her ways. A wild donkey used to the wilderness, sniffing the wind in the desire of her being, in her time of mating, who turns her away. All those who seek her need not weary themselves. In her month they find her. Keep your foot from being bare and your throat from thirst. But you said, it is useless because I love strangers and after them I go. As the thief is ashamed when he is found out, so is the house of Israel ashamed. They and their sovereigns and their heads and their priests and their prophets, saying to a tree, you are my father, and to a stone, you gave birth to me. For they have turned their back to me and not their face. But in the time of their calamity they say, arise and save us. But where are your mighty ones that you have made for yourselves? Let them arise. See if they save you in the time of your calamity, because your mighty ones have become as many as your cities, O Yehudah.
And closing Haftarah blessing. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam, zur kol ha'olamim, tzaddik v'kol ha'nerohu, ha'el ha'ne'aman, ha'omer v'yoseh, ha'mnebar u'kayam, shekol devarah, emet v'tzedek, ne'aman, etahu Yehovah Eloheinu, v'ne'amanim devareka, v'devareka midvareka, akor lo yeshu rekam, ki el melech ne'aman, Barakamanata, Baruch atah Yehovah, Ha'el Haniyamah, B'kol Devarah. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, Rock of all eternity, faithful in all generations, who says and does, who speaks and makes it come to pass, all of whose words are true and righteous. Faithful are you, Yehovah our Elohim, and faithful are your words. For not one word of yours is turned back unfulfilled. For you are a faithful El and King. Blessed are you, Yehovah, the Elohim, who is faithful in all his words. He who blessed our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, may he bless Rita bar Abraham, because she has come up to read from the Haftarah. As a reward for this, may the Holy One, the Father of our Messiah, blessed is he, protect her and rescue her from every illness, and may he send blessing and success in her every endeavor, together with all Israel, her brethren. Now let us respond. Amen. I'd like to call Jesse ben Abraham to read from the second writings, Brit Hadashah. You get your own too. If you'll join me for the opening blessings here. Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Mashiach Yehoshua, b'haketuvim shel haTalmudim. Baruch atah Yehovah, noten habrit haTorah. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us Messiah Yehoshua and the writings of the Talmudim. Blessed are you, Yehovah, giver of the covenant of the Torah.
4:1-12. Where do fightings and strivings come from among you? Do they not come from your pleasures that battle in your members? You desire and do not have. You murder and are jealous and are unable to obtain. You strive and fight, and you do not possess because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask evilly, in order to spend it on your own pleasures. Adulterers and adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with Elohim? Whoever therefore intends to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of Elohim. Or do you think that the Scripture speaks to no purpose? Does the Spirit which dwells in us intensely crave unto envy? But he who gives greater favor. Because of this he says, Elohim resists the proud, but gives favor to the humble. So then subject yourselves to Elohim. Resist the devil, and he shall flee from you. Draw near to Elohim, and he shall draw near to you. Cleanse hands, sinners, and cleanse the hearts, you double-minded. Lament and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning, and your joy to dejection. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Master, and he shall lift you up. Brothers, do not speak against one another. He that speaks against a brother and judges his brother speaks against Torah and judges Torah. If you judge Torah, you are not a doer of Torah, but a judge. There is one lawgiver and judge, who is able to save and to destroy. Who are you to judge another?
Thank you. And the closing blessings for the second writings. Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu hadavar ha'emet, v'chaye olam nata b'tekenu. Baruch atah Yehovah, asher natan lanu Mashiach Yehoshua, v'haketuvim haTalmudim. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us the word of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yehovah, who has given us Messiah and the writings of the Talmudim. He who blessed our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, may he bless Jesse ben Abraham, because he has come up to read from the second writings in honor of Messiah and his teachings. As a reward for this, may the Holy One, the Father of our Messiah, blessed is he, protect him and rescue him from every trouble and distress, from every plague and illness, and may he send blessing and success in his every endeavor, together with all Israel, his brethren. Now let us respond. Amen. If you'll Stand and join me for the It's Kaim He. It's Kaim He, Lama Kazikimba, Etome Ameya, Mushar, Darakeha, Darke Noha, Vekonativo Teha, Shalom, Hashivanu Yehovah, Alecha V'nashuva, Kadesh, Kadesh Yameinu, Kadesh Yameinu Kekedem. It is a tree of life to those who take hold of it, and those who support it are praiseworthy. Its ways are the ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Bring us back, Yehovah, to you, and we shall come, renew our days as of old. Amen. This concludes the Torah service. You may be seated.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you. Hope everybody's doing well today. We're ending the book of Numbers, and it's a double portion for us. I know there's been a lot of, we're not all following the same Torah portion right now, but we seem to all join up in Deuteronomy, if anybody's paid attention to any other schedules. So we are starting in Numbers and Matot and Masel, chapter 30. Matot means tribes, and Masel, it's often translated as journeys, but it means the breaking of the camp or the departure. So the tribes breaking camp to journey would be the next two portions. And it's the last 6 chapters of the book of Numbers. So magicians use this phrase, abracadabra, and I'm sure we've all heard of it or been familiar with it. But if you actually look at those words, you can see in the first word, abra, the word barar, and kadabra, dabar. And if you know the first line in Hebrew of the scriptures in Genesis, it's Bereshith bara. Bara means to create. And it literally means to open and is to actualize a thing or to create it. Dabar generally means a word, a matter, or a thing. So overall, dabar means to combine separate items into one, and that results in the word, the matter, or the thing. So the phrase abracadabra is saying, with my speech, I will create. And chapter 30 begins about speech. I'm just going to keep going through these. How important are the words that come out of your mouth? A lot of us speak all day long, and we use idle words, but our Father, to be set apart to be His holy people, really wants us to pay attention to, one, what He's instructing us and what our responsibilities are being His holy people. The words we speak create the reality around us by what we say. Do you allow meaningless talk to dominate your speech, or is there a goal to your vocabulary? And then why is this even a question? Because we are made in the image of Elohim. And Elohim created the man in his image. In the image of Elohim, he created him, male and female, he created them. That's Bereshith, Genesis 1:27. The Torah, the foundation of our obedience, is our instructions on how to love Yehovah through the relationship he desires with us. That's what this is given. This is how he wants his people to be set apart and how we're to behave. It's all spelled out for us. That's why we study this, and it's why we're coming out of the world, so we can be his chosen people. So in chapter 30 here, this is introducing us to vowing a vow or swearing an oath. So the Father knows we're going to have words come out of our mouth. We might say some things, but he wants us to really pay attention to things that we say. It's voluntarily when you speak. You're not just being forced to say stuff. So the speech that you decide to share with the world around you is voluntary, and he takes it very seriously. When a man vows a vow to Yahovah, or swears an oath to bind himself by some agreement, he does not break his word. He does according to all that comes out of his mouth. And as we are made in his image, we are ambassadors for him and his character. We're his representation. Yeah, Devin?
Yeah, I just wanted to build on that. Is also not just made in his image, but being called by his name. That's
Yep.
why it's so important. So if you're being called by his name and you're swearing a vow by that name, it's not just you on the line. It's him that's on the hook for
Exactly.
that vow and that obligation.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems to go in more, though. It doesn't just have to, it's literally the words that come out of your mouth. You don't have to, and it's because of the representative we are, not the fact that you're taking, based on him, I'm doing this. It's just a given that as being his set apart people, we are representing him. In Exodus 20, verse 7, you do not bring the name of Yahovah your Elohim to naught, for Yahovah does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught. The name of Yahovah is his character and his reputation. This is how he separates us from the world. The world lies and cheats and steals. If we do those things, then we represent the world, not his set-apart people. We're called to be his set-apart people. We're coming out of the world. The reason he gave us these rules and these instructions is so we don't act like the world. There's a difference to this walk that we're on now. It's an open invitation, and again, it's by your free will. You just like the marriage vows, this is something you commit to, and you choose to do it, and you vocalize it with an audience. You state your intent, saying, this is who I'm going to be, this is who I follow, and then your actions have to follow it and represent it. In Vayikra, Leviticus 19:12, and do not swear falsely by my name, and so profane the name of your Elohim. I am Yahovah. That's what Devin was hitting on. And Devarim, Deuteronomy 23:23, that which has gone from your lips you shall guard and do, for you voluntarily vowed to Yahovah your Elohim what you have promised with your mouth. So the word for vow is nader, and it is said it refers to a future action. So this is kind of a way to, like I said, I always like to dig into the Hebrew meanings of these words. So the vow is referring to something you're pledging you're going to do. First time this is used is in Genesis, Bereshith 28, verses 20 through 22. And Yaakov made a vow saying, seeing Elohim is with me and has kept me in this way that I am going, and he has given me bread to eat and a garment to put on, when I have returned to my father's house in peace, and Yahovah has been my Elohim, then this stone which I set as a standing column shall be Elohim's house. And of all that you give me, I shall certainly give a tenth to you. So this is the vow. He's talking about a future action. He's been taken care for, and when he returns, he's going to give a tenth. To swear it's the Hebrew word in root shavah, or shavah, and it's an oath. And both vowing and swearing is a binding bond that your soul is not to break. That's in Hebrew. It actually says nefesh there. It's referring to your soul. So that's what I mean. Just because words come out of our mouth, I think we have to realize how bound up we are in our speech and what is spoken. We know the Creator in the beginning spoke the world into existence. Words are a powerful thing, and we have some of that responsibility with the type of life we live. In James 5:12, but above all, my brothers, do not swear either by the heaven or by the earth with any other oath, but let your yes be yes and your no be no, lest you fall into judgment. Your word is what's powerful. It's not you're swearing, and you've heard the phrase based on my mother's, people phrase it a lot of different ways, but it doesn't matter what you're swearing on. The point is it's coming from you, and you're the one held liable for it. So it's your character and his reputation that's on the line. Once you're found to be not truthful, the world's term for that is a liar. And if you're going to be the Father's people, you have to be truthful even if it's to your own hurt. Why? Because that's how our Father acts. He does things, and his word won't come back to him void. That's who we emulate. That's who we want to be like. That's who we're learning from. So you're not to swear on anything outside of yourself. Let the truth come from within you. Your deeds and your actions make you trustworthy. In Matthew 12:36, and I say to you that for every idle word men speak, they shall give an account of it in the day of judgment. So back here in our Parsha, it's stating that a man is held to his word. And that's when a man vows a vow to Yahovah or swears an oath to bind himself by some agreement, he does not break his word. He does according to all that comes out of his mouth. For the woman, a woman in her father's house, the father has a right to annul the vow on the day that he hears it. And if he keeps silent, the vow stands. Also, if she belongs to a husband, and now that's referring to if they're married or betrothed, it's the same thing. A woman committed to a partner, to a man, is you're either married to that person or you're betrothed or you're under your father's house. This vow can also be annulled on the day it is heard or else it stands. And there's some rules for the father. Okay, and this vow from a woman's lip remains bound with her even after a divorce or widowhood. If something's that she vows while she's married and then ends up divorced, that vow stands if it was stood in the day it was heard and not annulled. Same if the husband is deceased and now she becomes a widow, the vow she chose to make with her lips stands. Verse 13 of chapter 30 states that the husband should confirm or nullify every vow and every binding oath. And 14 goes on to say that his silence on the matter is an act of confirmation. But if her husband is altogether silent at her from day to day, then he confirms all her vows or all the agreements that bind her. He confirms them because he kept silent towards her on the day that he heard it. So again, non-action is action in the world of Torah. You know, you are in this by choosing to participate in our Father and His instructions for us. You can't just pick and choose and decide when you want to sit on the sidelines or when you don't want to be involved with something. He has rules, and He's allowing us to voluntarily commit to these rules. And this is a learning process. As we go through these Torah cycles, it teaches us what He expects. And year after year, when you dig into this, it's just layers upon layers, and the knowledge and the understanding just gets developed. The hierarchy, and this is from our Father, is set in order for protection and for accountability. It's not so men dominate over women. It's a protection thing. In that day and age, women really had no rights. But the way His system was incorporated, the widows, the daughters, everyone was protected, and they had a head over them. This is a system that you don't have to live by if you serve the world. But if you are His, then we must acknowledge He has created the order. This is how He established it and how He deems it to be. So the correct order is the Creator creating the created. You know, our world gets really confused about how we perceive and how we want to interpret. And it's a lot of times, I've just had this phrase in my head for a long time. It's a lot of times it's the people, I think, well, I'll just keep going. It is not we, the created, who get the privilege of creating our definition of who we serve. The people that were created by our Creator, the world in general, tends to turn around and try and recreate the Creator in the image they want Him to be. Whether you want Him to be a soft-spoken, nobody's going to punish me and the law is done away with, or we only have to follow this set of rules. The whole point is, we're humbling ourselves, we're acknowledging that He's the Creator, and we're going to choose to live by the rules that He's already established. This is the way that was established from the beginning. And there's nothing new. We can find this written in His Torah. Yeshua, our Messiah, followed these, and it's just backed up by all the prophets, all the messages that we find in Scripture. He has chosen the behavior He wants His people to have and allowed those who behave accordingly to be His people. That's how easy it is. It's not the bloodline. It's the seed. Fruit produces like the seed of the fruit produces the same fruit. If the obedience of Abraham and the seed that was chosen of Abraham is because his generations were going to obey His Torah, His commands, His mitzvot, that's what it takes to be His people. It's in the obedience. So a righteous person, as long as they act righteously, is righteous. A righteous person, as soon as they act unrighteously, becomes unrighteous. In 1 Peter 2:9, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a set-apart nation, a people for a possession, that you should proclaim the praises of him that called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. The chosen race is from Devarim, Deuteronomy 10:15. Yahovah delighted only in your fathers, to love them, and he chose their seed after them, you above all the peoples. The covenant that he made with the fathers, the patriarchs, is the covenant that we get to participate in, and that's the benefit we get. We are the seed, and we get to participate in that covenant. The royal priesthood reference was from Isaiah 61:6. But you shall be called priests of Yahovah, servants of our Elohim shall be said of you. You shall consume the strength of the nations and boast in their esteem. There's a lot packed into that sentence, but really this is just reiterating he called us out to be a nation of priests, and he has a high level of understanding of how our behavior affects ourselves, affects those around us. It's the idea of it's not a burden to do this. The beauty of what we get to represent and how we can be the representative for our Father and for his word and voice in this world. The nations the strength of the nations will be consumed by that power that the Father gave his priesthood, and boast in their esteem. We're going to boast in the esteem of the nations that shall consume the strength of nations and boast in their esteem. They're going to esteem the priesthood. It's not going to be looked down on. It's such, like I said, this hierarchy that talked about in the vows with the Father, in the house, with the marriage. There's a system that's set up, and even in the system in the priesthood is set up like this. I mean, everything the Father has done has brought order out of chaos. And that's what the darkness is the chaos. But like it said, his marvelous light is what we have to boast in. The set-apart nation in Shemoth, Exodus 19, and now if you diligently obey my voice and shall guard my covenant, then you shall be my treasured possessions above all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a reign of priests and a set-apart nation. Those are the words which you are to speak to the children of Israel. That's the idea. As we come alongside this Torah, as we choose to graft in and participate in his instructions, we become the children of Israel. We know Yehuda is out there, but the lost tribes that are dispersed in the nation, the two houses that are going to come together, is going to be called the house of Israel. Right now, we choose to behave this way and to participate in it. Chapter 31, as we go on with the Torah portion, deals with the Midianites. From chapter 32, the Midianites had joined with the Moabites to hire Balaam to curse the Israelites. It's backing up a few parshas, but that's who the Midianites were. And here, Balaam is killed along with all the males and females who had known a man. So because of them, as they were hired to curse the Israelites and joining with that, now they are conquered. And the only ones that were allowed to stay alive were the females who had not known a man. The spoils were divided into two parts, for those who had fought and for the rest of the congregation. So everything that was brought back from the battle was divided up. From those that fought, 1 in 500 of man, cattle, donkey, and sheep were given for Yahovah. And this was given to Eleazar, the priest. There you go, as a contribution to Yahovah. From the children of Israel's half, the ones that did not go to fight, 1 in 50 were given to the Levites who guard the duty of the dwelling place of Yahovah. So you can see the ones that went out to fight, what they were allowed to keep was a higher percentage than the ones who didn't go to fight. Then the men who fought were counted, and not one of those were missing. And the next sentence says, so they brought an offering of gold to make atonement for themselves. There's a lot of discussion on this. What I think is interesting is the fact of the counting. When we look at when it's counted, in Shemoth, Exodus 30:12, when you take the census of the children of Israel to register them, then each one shall give an atonement for his life to Yahovah. When you register them, so that there is no plague among them when you register them. the Father wasn't big on counting his people just for whatever reason. And when they counted and realized not one person had been lost in the battle, they knew to give an atonement. This goes back to a prior precedent that was set. So again, they've learned Torah, they're following Torah. This is just to teach us how the Father wants his people to behave. I would think it's just going to be a huge blessing someday, not us doing the counting, but when we get to be counted as the Father's people. I mean, there's going to be that someday. In 32, this is chapter 32, and if you guys read the Torah portion, so Gad and Reuben decided to ask for land outside of the promised land. So here, this whole 40 years of journeying was to get them to cross into the promised land, and now 2 of the tribes don't want to go. They see good grassland, they have lots of cattle, they want to stay on this side of the Jordan River. I mean, I'm sure you had your own thoughts about that. Hopefully it brought up a lot of questions. If you were given the idea of the promise for 40 years and all our fathers weren't allowed in and we're the next generation, are you, like, look at that scenario and what are you missing out on because of your understanding? He has promised us a promised land that's beyond the blessings that we can understand. So land flowing with milk and honey is how it's described. But if you're good enough with the green grass for your cattle, to me that seems short-sighted. That, you know, so and that's, again, these stories are just relations for us to look at and to learn from and try and glean, like, what is going through their minds. It makes absolutely no sense. But if you have a scenario in your mind and you know, as you're learning the promises of our Father, do you sell yourself short? Do you accept? You know, we're meant to guard the Sabbath. That's what it says, to guard the Sabbath. What does that mean? It takes a lot of diligent study to figure out what guarding the Sabbath means. So are there things that are tempted to you just so the adversary can tempt you away from the Father, from guarding the Sabbath? So now your word is in question and you're not diligent about that. I mean, all these scenarios come up, but the more you persevere, as it says, you know, it's a long journey. This, you know, and that's what these 40 years represent also. It's a long time. Daphne, was that just your hair? So when they wanted Gad and Reuben to stay outside of the land, they were negotiating with Moshe. And he kind of comes back at them and notices, you know, but that's not right. We've gotten this far. Everybody else has to go into the land. How's it going to look if you guys sit back now while the rest have to go in and conquer the land? So they promise to be the vanguard, which is at the front or the head of the armies that are going to go into battle. They're going to leave their children, wives, cattle home. They're going to be out in front fighting, and they won't return home until all the land is conquered, which in Joshua, I forget, it's actually in there when they get sent home. And then I notice in line 33, half the tribe of Manasseh is mentioned with Gad and Reuben. What? Like, do you see what talk and influence and gossip does? I mean, how that sin of the spies, how does that report, like, how does that even spread? How can you, now are you making your brother stumble? Now they don't want to go in the land. Oh, he gets to stay here? They don't have to, you know, I mean, there's just a lot to go on. But what this really is all meant for self-reflection and how this personal journey, I keep reiterating that Israel is a community of people. We are this group of people that together are doing this word, but it's on such an individual level, but it's all intertwined, and we are our brother's keepers. So just like however Manasseh got dragged into this, when I look back at the map of the camp, of how they camped in the desert, Reuben and Gad are in the same camp. So it's obviously they would have been, and even Manasseh is off to the west, Reuben and Gad were to the south, Manasseh is to the west. So they're close enough in proximity. I mean, maybe some of these relationships started earlier. You know, you don't know why people are in your life, why there's scenarios you come through. But if you keep your eye on the prize of obedience to our Father, esteeming Him, not transgressing Torah, that should be the goal. That should be our vocabulary. That should be what we're striving for. The rest of it is just fodder for what we're going through in this day and age. I mean, I talk a lot about how the blessings of America and our materialistic society, it's so easy to get distracted. I mean, these guys are in the desert and just begging for bread and water. but the Father always provided it. And it was a couple of parshias ago, it just surprised me. He gave them, was it a well? And they praised the well. They didn't praise the Father for giving, they praised the well. I mean, all that stuff should just make you slow down and realize every breath you take, you know, every drink you have, everything is from the Father. We can take none of this for granted. So moving on, up into chapter 33, now they're departing from Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, from Ramses. And I went ahead and translated these instead of these names. So we were talking about the genealogy today, how somebody didn't want to read genealogies. Same thing, I didn't want to read all these. So I went with just the English, and we're going to breeze through the English, comment if something sticks out to you. But there's 42 stops here. These are the journeys. So now we're into the next Torah portion, the journeys. And again, it was that Maseh is when they depart. So kind of lists a place, and then it says they depart there and they go to the next place. But they depart from Egypt, from Ramses, which is actually child of the sun. And again, I'll just say that these are very soft translations. It's Brown Driver Briggs or Strong, so I didn't dig too hard into these, so I'm letting them translate. I really didn't go into it. But they departed the day after Pesach, the first day of unleavened bread. They went to Succoth. Why is it called Succoth? First time they've been there, right? Wrong. Genesis 33:17, and Yaakov sent out of Succoth and built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. That is why the name of the place is called Succoth. I remember the first time I realized, wait, Succoth isn't just a stop here. It was mentioned in the first book of Torah. The more you read, the more understanding you gather, the more you can relate these stories and actually get a picture. And I'm so not supposed to be jealous, but jealous of the people who get to go to the actual land of Israel, and how this is just going to open up and become alive to have a historical book. Yeah, Devin?
Well, you can finish, but I was just going to say, I think I read that those are actually two different places called Sukkot.
And again, I'm still learning this, so I would be curious. In Scripture, but Scripture, they go with the rule of first use. So yeah, I should dig into it deeper, but first time the word Succoth is used, it would be back here. Whether it's a correlation, that's something about, yeah, and I think it's a teaching method, because there's so many of these stories, you're like, I read that story before, but the names are different. You know, there's a reason our Father repeats stuff, and it's so we discern and learn. So I'll just go with that. It's been mentioned before. Whether it is the same place or not, like Devin brought up, I'm not positive. Go ahead, Bill. Bill's been there.
Just noticed it said built a house for himself in Booth for his livestock. So we stay in Booth. We're staying where the livestock stay, where he stays.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I'll choose the house. But hey, if all I get's the. And yes. At what time of year? So from Succoth, Booths, and like I said, this is the either Brown Driver Driggs or the other one, the easy one, I forget already. Strong's, thank you. Their plowshare, place where sedge grows. I don't know what sedge is. Tower, bitter, palms, 12 springs and 70 palms, the sea of reeds, wilderness of thorns, knocking, I will need, and they had in parentheses bread there. Resting places, thorny wilderness, graves of lust, settlement, heath, I'm not sure, pomegranate of the breach, pavement, ruin, assembly, beauty, fear, place of assembly, station, delay, sweetness, fatness, bonds, sons of twisting, cavern of Gidgad, and there was no definition of Gidgad. That's just maybe a name, but in Hebrew generally not. Pleasantness, passage, backbone of a man, holy, shady, darkness, water skins, ruins of, I don't think that was alarm, I think that was spell check. That's not supposed to be alarm, it was an AV. This is all the 42 stops, yeah, so the 42 stops of their journeys, this would be the I'll just say soft English translation of what the names were. So really, there was something going on that this is what that stop was called. graves of lust. You know, if you back up and find that place and find the story that was going on with it, I mean, I'm sure we can correlate one of the stories that we've read. Pavement, you know, my first thought is in him, but what, you know, the hardness and the rockiness and so all of these meant something in reference. Wasting, concealing 2 cakes, mountain of regions beyond, plains of his father, house of desolation, meadows of acacias. I forget. Thank you. I really need some water. I'm sorry. No, I'm almost done. Yeah. When they pass over the lowland, Canaan, they were to drive out all the inhabitants, destroy their engraved stones, molded images, and high places. These are the requirements for entering the land. And there was a warning if they didn't do this. And if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall be that those whom you let remain shall be pricks in your eyes and thorns in your sides, and they shall trouble you in the land where you dwell. And it shall be that I do to you as I thought to do to them. Remember, he is kicking them out because of their behavior. That is why he has a set rule of behavior for his set-apart people. If you fall into the category that you're not behaving how he wants you to behave, you can't create the creator you want and force him to accept you. He can do what he wants and kick you out.
We've already seen how weak their will is to follow him when the Midianite women come
Exactly.
and they immediately start
Yeah.
making sacrifices to them.
Right.
So if they didn't go in and clean it
Yeah,
out,
that
it
if
would've
you
been consistent.
look at that by all of Peor, that it's not good what they worshipped. It's really Leslie. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and we have to remember, it's really easy to look at these stories and I think, question their behavior, but look at yourself, look at your own life, look at what's preventing you. Just let that story teach what it's trying to teach you. We can't criticize them, we can't judge them. What we can do is we are in control of ourselves and our own behavior. Jesse?
What you're saying right there, I agree, because we think I would write a song of praise to a well. And how many times have I said something like, that's good, whatever.
Right.
Thank you, Yahweh.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything is a teaching opportunity. So with the right heart and the right spirit, and again, his perfection, when he calls us to be perfect, that's the opportunity to recognize your wrong behavior, repent, and choose the right path again. That being perfect is stumbling, getting up, and getting back on path. So that was the warning to them. And here's a little comment. As we looked over the names of the places of encampments, think of how your own personal journey has gotten you here today. There are seasons in your life that can be summed up by a descriptive word. Also note that you cannot arrive somewhere new if you don't depart from where you were. There's so many different ways. Every story. Rabbi was teaching on this. He's been doing this for 20 years, and his midrash has just got better and better and better. I've heard someone read through Torah and say, now what? And I think those are the two extremes. They felt like they read it, they understood it, and they could move on. This is where I want to be. I want to continually learn from my Father, have His Word revealed to me, and acknowledge that this journey that we're on, that's just it. It is a journey. The goal is to be His set-apart people. His Word lives forever, and He's allowed us to join that. We want that everlasting life through His living Word. Chapter 34 lays out the borders of their inheritance, and this is the land and its surrounding borders. This is the promised land that he's been talking about, and then it actually grids it out. When you come into the land of Canaan, this is the land which falls to you as an inheritance, the land of Canaan, to its boundaries, and the southern, the northern. It goes through and lists the boundaries. 2.5 tribes received their inheritance outside of the land beyond the Jordan. And it was given to Eleazar and Yehoshua ben Nun to divide the land. And they were to take leaders. 1 leader from each tribe was taken to divide the inheritance. Caleb from Yehuda, Shemuel from Shimeon, Eladad from Benjamin, Buki from Dan, from Joseph from Manasseh is Hanael, and from Ephraim is Kemuel. From Zebulun it was Elisaphan. Issachar is Paltiel, Asher is Ahud, and Naphtali is Pedahel. Yeah, I butchered all those, but I'm working on it. So these were the leaders of the tribes who divide the inheritance among the children of Israel. In 35, from this inheritance, the Levites were given 42 cities with open land for cattle, herds, and livestock. And 6 more cities were given as cities of refuge, which were given to a manslayer to flee to. We caught some of this at the end of our Torah reading there. A manslayer is one who struck someone mistakenly. A murderer used an instrument of iron to strike, or stone, or a wooden-handled instrument. Sorry? Yeah, with intent. It's all about the heart and what was the intent. Lying in wait or striking with hatred or even bare hands is murder. Well, yes, Leslie. I've heard it. I don't know where. And I don't know if it was a story or if it's actually in here. And it is. Okay. Probably in Exodus, there's a lot of societal laws that are given with how to live. Yeah, Jesse? Yeah, if an ox gores somebody and they didn't do anything about it. Mm-hmm.
Same thing with dogs. We have dogs, you get warned, they're violent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see a lot of parallels in our society and where we get our rules and instructions. So once this happens with a manslayer and the revenger of blood, the congregation is to intervene, judge between the one who struck and the revenger of blood according to right ruling, and rescue the manslayer and return him to a city of refuge. So these are one of the, what was interesting too, I don't know if I put it in there, 3 of the cities are on the east side of the Jordan. So Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh have 3 cities. The other 3 cities are amongst the other tribes. That seems disproportionate. I just thought that was interesting. I'm sure there's some stories on it. I just didn't dig them out. The manslayer is safe all the while he resides in the city of refuge, and he cannot leave until... So somebody's death can atone for the death of the high priest. And it also says one witness is not sufficient for the execution. If the penalty is death, it cannot be based on the testimony of one witness. It has to be more than one witness. And it also says no ransom is accepted for the one who has fled to the city of refuge. So it also states blood profanes the land. So this is, going to the murderer or the manslayer versus, the manslayer versus the murderer, I'm sorry. But blood profanes the land. And we're told, do not profane the land. Only the blood of him who has shed the blood can pardon the land.
Remember when Cain strikes Abel and it says his blood cries out.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and heaven and earth are witnesses. There's 2. It's not just one, but it's interesting. So all the hidden actions that people think they can get away with, according to our Father's word, it's being recorded. It's going to be cry out. Will rise. Okay. Yeah. So Yahovah intended to dwell in the midst of the children of Israel, therefore the land cannot be defiled. This is the whole point. He is pure and holy and righteous, and is trying to teach us how to be pure and holy and righteous. If somebody dies accidentally, it's forgiven, but if it's a murder, if the intent is hatred, it's not forgiven, and you're told up front. And we know that it's wrong, but how many people act with wrong behavior and then try and wiggle their way out of it? As our society has developed loopholes, it really doesn't matter the contract, the agreement, they're going to wiggle their way out of it because men look to their own benefit. And we are told this is the law of right rulings to you throughout your generations in all your dwellings. I don't see the word until there, and that's the whole point of Torah. It is throughout our generations. This is the benefit for all people. Chapter 36 addresses the daughters of Zelophehad. To keep the inheritance of their father, from going to another tribe, they were to marry who they wanted, but only within the clan of their father's tribe. The inheritance was not to change hands. The children were to cling to the inheritance of the tribe of his fathers. That's interesting. It's something so precious, and you're given and entrusted with it. You're expected to hold on to it. You're not to trade it off. You're not to count it of no value. We've seen people in stories with birthrights, with other examples we can think of, but that inheritance is really a prized possession. Ezekiel 47. And you shall divide this land among yourselves according to the tribes of Israel. And it shall be that you divide it by lot as an inheritance for yourselves, and for the stranger who sojourns in your midst, and who bear children among you. And they shall be to you as native born among the children of Israel. With you they have an inheritance in the midst of the tribes of Israel. And it shall be that in whatever tribe the stranger sojourns, there you give him his inheritance, declares the Master Yahovah. This sentence right here is why a lot of us actually, by our own voice and the words we speak, choose to join a specific tribe. When you kind of come into this walk, there's a lump of Ben Abraham because he is the patriarch of all the tribes. But Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is Israel. Israel had 12 sons, which are the tribes. In Revelations, to get into the city, there are 12 gates, and they are the 12 names of the children of Israel. And let not the son of the foreigner who has joined himself to Yahovah speak, saying, Yahovah has certainly separated me from his people. Also the sons of the foreigner who join themselves to Yahovah, to serve him and to love the name of Yahovah, to be his servants, all who guard the Sabbath and not profane it, and are holding on to my covenant, them I shall bring to my set-apart mountain, and let them rejoice in my house of prayer. Their sending offerings and their slaughterings are accepted on my slaughter place, for my house is called a house of prayer for all the peoples. I want to say a lot of times it says all nations, I think, in that. And that's Isaiah 56. So that's just, we are a set-apart people. He has a treasured possession, and we can't change his rules for how his treasured possession is to behave, but what an honor to be counted as part of his treasured possession. And that just shows you, even the seed, the like kind, doing the behavior that he wants to be his set-apart people, that's what qualifies you to get an inheritance. So I think that's it. Leslie. Isn't that where the Yovel comes?
Hold on, though. Let me just clarify. Men and women could intermarry. The only time they couldn't intermarry in the tribes is in the instance where there was no man to take possession, and the woman couldn't, because that land had been given to them by Yahweh, not by man. So they couldn't just go and give it to someone else.
And that's where it was saying the tribes were to cling to their inheritance. It couldn't transfer to another tribe.
Right. So a woman, a Judah could marry a Reubenite if they wanted, but just not in the instance where that would cause the land.
If you have brothers.
That's what I was talking about. When you're dealing with millions and millions of people and thousands of years, you're going to start breaking that down, even if it's 1 in 1,000 that scenario happens. See what I'm saying?
Well, and I'm sure that's why the example is in there for that was the ruling. And it is a matriarchal society.
You can see his repetition of unity again.
Patriarchal.
This
So sorry.
community, it was over and over
I was
and over
behind
and
myself.
over
Wait, that's
again.
not right.
To me, it seems like he is stressing unity and community, to where everything you need is where you are. You don't have to deal with the world. You can go in and amongst yourselves and
Sure.
your cousins and your brothers and your friends, and
And
everybody
there
is
is
your
those-
family. It
those-
makes more unity and community.
Mhm. There is those rules with the Jubilee years that would apply to some of these inheritance and where stuff would return to and all that. So he had a system balanced out for that. We're so far removed.
You could sell, like, or lease it or whatever, but like it has
Yeah.
to be returned.
Counting down to
It has to be
when it'll
returned.
return. The value is based on how close you are to that time.
And I can see the point you're making. I just only wanted to clarify because some people think that they couldn't like a Judah couldn't marry a Reuben, but that's not true. They could just. But yeah, your point was actually different. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify so that people weren't confused about that.
Yeah. So that's the whole be strong, be strengthened. We finish the book of Numbers and we get to start Deuteronomy. Yes.
You didn't mention the example of Jephthah, in
yeah.
Judges. So in
Wow, you mean I
chapter-
didn't open that can of worms?
well, just as an example
Yeah.
of how serious it is.
Yeah. The
I
first
was
thing
trying
that
to
comes out of my
explain-
house.
I was trying to explain to Rick this morning about how women, it sounds oppressive, but actually it's really lucky that the man is our covering, whereas when you're the man and you're responsible directly to Yahweh, right? And when he says, I'm gonna, sacrifice the first thing that comes out of the house, and it's his daughter, it's that it just goes to show how serious.
That's why I was trying to kind of just touch on speech at the beginning of it, and the whole idea of we treat it as some mythical thing, the abracadabra, but literally you create the world you live in by the words you speak, whether you're a happy person, a depressed person, what you look forward to, if you joyous, sing praises to the Father. There is a way to live in this world that is better than you expect. But if you let yourself get in your own way and stay that negative mindset, but it's just the speech is so important, and it creates reality. And the ultimate reality that was created is by our Father, who through all this existence is created, through His Son, through the Word, through the living Word, our Messiah. So next week, I forget how many chapters. And if anybody wants, we have lists of a reading list we go through. It's the first handful of chapters. It's broken down weekly. I want to get those to you. I forget how many the first Parsha in Deuteronomy is. Four,
I think.
Okay.
You can also look online,
Yeah.
the Torah portions.
Yeah, and actually it's in the front of the Scriptures Bible. They're written down. Don't remember. Okay, so as I've been learning, actually, I like to say I think the greatest human achievement is submission to our Father. There's nothing else we can do in this world except for voluntarily choose to submit to Him. And then the promise is eternal life, inheritance, to be a treasured possession. That's a pretty good thing. So if you guys would like to join me in repetition of the Shema. Shema Israel, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malkuto, Leolam Bayed. Hear, O Israel, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah is one. Blessed is the name of His glorious kingdom for all eternity. And we have new slides. Who would like to do the blessing over the wine and bread? Bill and Elijah. Oh, really? I'll get them.
You can always do the bread first.
Blessing over the one.
Blessed are you, Yahweh Elohim, King of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine.
Blessing over the bread.
Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh Elohim, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth.
And
Taking bread, giving thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, This is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me.
I have set watchmen on your walls, O Jerusalem, all the day and all the night, continually, who are not silent. You who remember Jehovah, give yourselves no rest, and give him no rest till he establishes, until he makes Jerusalem a praise in the earth. Father Elohim, we just thank you so much, and Father, that you have met us here in this place, Father God. I just want to lift up and pray for the peace of Jerusalem, Father, that your hand would guide them and protect them. All of us who are coming to know you, Father, we just pray that you will continue to strengthen us, Father. And we ask all this in your Son Yeshua's name. Amen.
If you'll stand and join us in Tehillim, Psalm 67. Elohim
does favor us and bless us, cause his face to shine upon us, Salah. For your ways be known on earth, your deliverance among all nations. Let the people praise you, O Elohim. Let all the peoples praise you. Let the nations be glad and sing for joy, for you judge the peoples uprightly, and lead the nations on earth, Selah. Let the peoples praise you, O Elohim. Let all the peoples praise you. The earth shall give her increase. Elohim, our own Elohim, blesses us. Elohim blesses us, and all the ends of the earth